You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
This week's Law & Order Marathon winner is Gary McClanahan of Tucker, Georgia. Gary will get a marathon decal showing he watched 26.2 hours of his favorite crime show. To be next week's winner, sign up at lawandorderpodcast.com.
I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Michelle Rubenstein, and these are their stories.
You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. It's no ordinary police procedural, baby. It's the FNOG of police procedurals, baby. Law and order, law and order, law and order, law and order. These are their stories, these are their stories.
Welcome to These Are Their Stories, the podcast about network TV's most enduring crime franchise and the real-life cases that inspired their shows. I'm Kevin Flynn. Each podcast will break down an episode from either Criminal Intent, SVU, or Original Recipe. And today we're looking at Special Victims Unit Season 9, Episode 17, Authority.
The Milgram experiment. Except this time, the shock's for real.
Joining me to do just that is true crime author and the host of Crime Writers On and Slate's Mom and Dad Are Fighting podcasts, Rebecca Lavoie. Hello, Rebecca.
Good morning, Kevin Flynn.
Oh, giving away our special guest.
I know you hate it when I do that.
Well, rounding out our panel is our very special podcast guest from the It Takes Three Network, Michelle Rubenstein. Hi, Michelle.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Now, you and your friends do Tree Hill Talk.
I love it.
Yes, we talk about all the trees.
And Let's Talk OC.
Oh.
Yeah, yes, that's our latest podcast of teen dramas.
And the River Pod, which is based on Riverdale.
Yep.
The Archie incarnation on CW. So tell us a little bit about why you and your friends decided that you would join this merry band of pirates we call podcasters.
Well, it's funny. I got into podcasting in 2009 when I was taking the train into a job I had. And at that point, no one was into podcasts. In my friend group. And so I then forced my friend and my boyfriend, now husband, to make a podcast with me. Then we went on and made Commercial Convo, which was a podcast all about commercials. And then I was like, you know what? Screw that. I want to do one about dreams. So then I had my own podcast called In Your Dreams, where I had guests on and we talked about dreams. And then my friend Ingrid, who's now my co-host and business partner, she was obsessed with One Tree Hill. She knew I loved the OC. And she came up with this idea. She's like, we should watch One Tree Hill and then, recap each episode. And that's how It Takes Three Network happened and Tree Hill Talk. And now that we just finished One Tree Hill back in August, I was like, it's time for the OC. That's my favorite teen drama. So that led us to
It's one of mine, too, by the way. I love the OC. Oh, my God. I just got my stepdaughter to start watching it.
It's so
Seth
good.
and Summer forever. I love the OC. I love all the characters in the OC. I love everything about it. And I love the fact that there's even an OC SVU crossover. You know what I'm talking about, Kevin?
I have no idea.
Peter Gallagher is what I'm talking about, Kevin.
Oh.
Peter Gallagher was the dad on the OC.
Wasn't there it's that girl from SVU?
Oh, what's her face? Yeah, what's her face?
With the blonde.
The main one.
Who's
Misha Barton, yes.
Ah, yes.
Misha Barton was on an SVU, and of course she was also the little girl from The Sixth Sense, who was one of the dead people that Bruce Willis saw. Spoiler alert.
Oh, okay. Now, Michelle, you have a personal connection to this particular episode. What is it?
Okay, so fun fact, I have only seen Law & Order SVU twice. Mm-hmm. Once because my sister was on this particular episode, and twice again to watch this episode for this special podcast episode. I have never seen any other Law & Order episodes or any really criminal shows. But yeah, my sister was an extra on this particular episode of SVU.
The pillow fight scene.
So she was in the pillow fight scene and she was in the Grand Central Station scene. I got to give her props. She's a go-getter. If you watch her in the Grand Central Station scene, her route does not make sense, but you could tell she's fighting to get on camera. And same thing with the pillow fight scene. She is just making her way, so she is right in front of that camera. And I had to bring her to the city that day for her to film this episode, and I got really mad, and I left her and abandoned her in the city.
Wow.
Was there a chance you could have been on this episode?
I don't think so. She was really snotty about it, but that's one of the reasons why I was like, screw you. Someone else can come pick you up. But I remember on the outskirts of being on like the outside of the pillow fight scene, I saw that happen, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Huh.
So now you've established that you've only watched one episode, so we'll do it anyway. What's your favorite detective team?
Favorite Law and Order detective team.
So it's really funny. From this episode, I think, I like Munch. Hey, he's a child of the 60s. Okay. It's funny because I watched this episode last night, and my husband's like, there was a time in my life where I just watched hours of Law and Order. I'm like, how did I miss this part of my life? Where you just like spend a sick day or a lazy day just watching Law and Order. But
how do we not have your husband on this podcast instead of you?
Can you leave his email address? Now let's look at the first half of this episode, SVU Season 9, Episode 17, Authority. Elliot and Olivia find the manager at Happy Burger has strip searched and tied up a teenage worker. He says he got a phone call from a Detective Milgram who ordered him to do it because that sounds reasonable. But there is no Detective Milgram, so who is it behind this prank phone call?
So what do we have on this phone freak?
Phone call's a dead end. They used a prepaid card on a payphone at the public library in Midtown.
So maybe the library has surveillance cameras.
Not a chance. Librarians took on Big Brother, so it wouldn't be able to monitor what you and I are reading.
Trace the guy who bought the airtime.
Taru tried. The card was one of a batch sold at the Value Mart uptown. They can't tell who bought the individual card.
He's either really lucky or damn good.
Well, my money's on good.
By using surveillance video from where the phone cards were purchased, the detectives home in on Merritt Rook, who is just Robin Williams in a pair of glasses, so we know he did it. He says he went fishing during the crime, but after calling all of his alibi witnesses, who were Mrs. Doubtfire, Popeye, Teddy Roosevelt, the genie from Aladdin, they realize it's just Rook on the other end of the phone. What a mastermind! Rook defends himself at trial because, well, that's how we just get more Robin Williams that way. He says he gives away those phone cards to homeless people, and the photo of him at the library at the time of the prank call was altered by crime technicians. He argues that the jurors shouldn't be sheep, should think for themselves. Carpe diem, Captain, my captain, nanu, nanu, I gotta go see about a girl. Good morning, Vietnam. Case dismissed. But since the show is only half over, we know we haven't seen the last of this guy. Okay, so let's start at the restaurant. The manager really thought he was going to get a medal for strip searching that girl.
Yes, as all fast food restaurants do when they have teenage employees.
This was ridiculous. All I kept thinking was, hey, it's 30 Rock Pete. Like,
You strip searched a teenage girl and kept her naked in your office for 30 minutes.
No. Detective Milgram said she could keep her apron on.
You're an idiot.
I resent that, Detective. After all I've done to help the police department?
It was ridiculous. And the whole idea that he was like, he wouldn't talk to anybody except for Detective Milgram. I'm doing the air quotes thing right now.
Yeah.
But then as soon as Olivia's like, I'm his partner, he's like, okay, yeah, I'll open the door for you.
Oh, thank God.
Detective mastermind that she is in that moment.
I can't stand being alone in this office with this naked girl another minute.
Exactly.
So they eventually get around to meeting Merritt Rook, and he is just too eager to provide them with a whole lot of fake alibis.
I don't think he came just for the blue plate special, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, thanks. Well, the alibi checks out so far. Fish and Wildlife gave him a license on Monday morning.
So what about the hotel?
They're next.
Margaretville Lodge, how can I help you?
This is Detective Munch of the NYPD. I'd like to confirm if a Merritt Rook stayed there on Monday night.
Certainly, please hold. Your call is important to us. Please stay on the line. One of our representatives will be with you shortly.
So why does Merritt Rook need all these elaborate alibis anyway?
Well, he says it's because he likes to sleep with hookers. But he doesn't like to have sex with them. He just likes to sleep with them. And then everyone looks at him like he's super weird, like that would never happen. And I'm like, just ask Cragen. Because for Cragen, that's exactly what he did with hookers.
Oh, yes.
In a future season. Remember, Kevin?
I remember. Remember that, Michelle?
She doesn't remember.
Oh, yeah. Remember that? It was great.
Captain Cragen, and then he got arrested and set up for murder, but they got him off.
Because he just liked to have companionship with hookers?
With hookers.
Did he say it the same way as Rook says, he just likes a warm body next to him?
Actually, he pretty much did.
Yeah. He didn't have an array of burner phones so that he could call up the fishing lodge. Well, they've been biting up here.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So he had that array of burner phones for which he made those like brother P-Touch labels for each one. That was like fishing lodge, motel. Like
it was like the Americans.
Does he use those over and over again, or did he just print all those labels for this one situation where he'd be imitating 6 different people?
I don't know about you, Michelle, but if I were doing that, I'd always have a phone like the battery was dead because I wasn't charging it enough.
Yeah.
And they'd be looking to call my fake hotel room and it'd be dead.
And wasn't the tell of that they were checking alibis by phone, which we have never seen them do before or since on any episode of Law & Order ever? They always walk into the motel and interrupt the person who does not stop what they're doing and just keeps going.
Oh, it's in like this, remember it's some faraway place where they have fish.
Dutchess County, like upstate New York? That's not that far.
Oh, well, to the rest of us it is.
Yeah.
Upstate. As Michelle knows, when you live on Long Island, upstate may as well be Alaska.
It's a different world. Totally different world up there.
So why do you need to cover your tracks on the phone cards if you've got all these burner phones so you can be like Mr. Rogers doing all the voices in the land of make-believe?
You always got to bring that back just to hurt me, don't you?
Yeah.
So, Michelle, a little backstory. I did not realize that Mr. Rogers did all the voices in the neighborhood of make-believe when I was little. Kevin told me that a few years ago, and he still brings it up that I didn't know that in an effort to undermine my credibility in a bunch of other conversations that we've had since then. Because apparently I'm the only person in America who was fooled by that. But I was not fooled by Robin Williams in this episode, because that 100% sounded like Robin Williams on every single one of those phone calls.
I know. All I kept thinking, like you said earlier, was, it's Mrs. Doubtfire. And it sounds, it's the same guy. Oh, my gosh.
Now, apparently the only way to make the arrest is not seize his telephone, but try to catch him in the act of talking in a funny voice.
This was so weird to me because this was the scene you're talking about when they make the call and they're recording, and then they just open the door.
Should be ringing.
Margaret Lodge, how can I help you? Please hold.
The door wasn't even locked.
You would think if you were committing computer crimes that you would at least lock the door. That was like a basic criminal activity, right?
How does that end up passing constitutional muster? How did you enter that? We just opened the door because we thought a crime was being committed.
Here's the whole thing. If you believe in the
warrant.
Constitution, you're just a sheep, Kevin. You're
just a sheep.
a sheep.
Correct.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Okay, this is SVU's 200th episode, so they needed a really big name.
It's our very special guest star,
Mr. Robin Williams. Yay! Playing Merritt Rook.
No, you mean serious actor version of Robert Williams playing Merritt Rook.
Yes.
My wife died 3 years ago. I miss her terribly. Sometimes when the pain gets really bad, I go out and look for someone who looks like Juliet, and I bring her home.
Well, yeah, I mean, Robin Williams has had so many great roles. I mean, he was, of course, Mork and Mindy, Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poets Society, Mrs. Doubtfire, Aladdin, Night at the Museum, and a bunch of other shit. Patch Adams, Good Will Hunting. He had
World According to Garp.
He had a very broad career, which is surprising for, the crazy guy who looks like he's on cocaine, improving like mad on The Tonight Show. He did a lot of dramatic stuff. He worked with a lot of great actors. He was in a lot of indie things. Mm-hmm. And, I don't think that we really think awful lot about sort of the breadth of his career.
As far as guest stars go, and, we're all aware of Robin Williams, how do you think he did in this episode?
Well, he received an Emmy nomination for the guest starring role. So do you think he deserved it?
No, I think it was more like an Elliot, watch out, someone else is here to chew the scenery situation with this Robin Williams guest star. Here's the thing, like, rest in peace, Robin Williams, right? We don't want to, talk too much smack about somebody who's no longer with us and died in a very tragic way. That being said, I do blame Robin Williams for making comedians everywhere feel as if their real calling is as a dramatic actor. Like, that's Robin Williams' fault as far as I'm concerned. This was not the best example of this dramatic acting. At least not to me. As you said, just putting on the glasses does not make a serious man all by itself.
No, but I guess if he shaves his head and has those glasses, then he's the bad guy in 1 hour photo.
Yes.
And just a little creepier.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the Academy really loves these guest appearances.
They do.
So
how come Didi Cohn didn't get the...
I was just going to mention Frenchie.
the nomination.
Okay, well, let's move on. I mean, because I actually get to play, like, all the jingles this episode. We're going to go to our Hey, It's That Girl.
Hey, it's that girl.
So I think you guys are pretty good here. Can you name the actress who played the nurse? No other name, just nurse.
I know.
Who is that?
Didi Khan, and she played Frenchie.
Mr. Rook lost it. Said he'd kill Dr. Slifkin. We had to call security to escort him out. I gotta run. Premature labor on the way.
Yeah, it's beauty school dropout herself, Didi Khan. Do you know that she was a finalist for the role of Olive Oil in the 1980 movie?
Color me not surprised. She would have been an awesome Olive Oil.
Co-starring whom?
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, exactly.
Maybe they remained friends after that.
Yeah, she has like just this really unique voice, which I think is, even if you didn't see her, you would automatically know.
She's the brunette Carol Kane is what she is, pretty much.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, in that scene, I didn't recognize her, but if I closed my eyes, I knew who she was.
Yeah, and you can kind of like tell like that dialogue was for her. It's like, oh, what happened to the doc?
I just like how she's like, oh, it's time for a premature birth, and just scurried away. It's like, oh, okay, bye.
I do like how she had the amazing recall.
It's like Chopper's radar.
She was able to call up the other case. Like, I mean, this is a nurse, right, in a maternity ward who's probably been present for thousands of deliveries, some of which have gone wrong, but she was able to remember that exact one and all of the details down to the minute. It's very exciting for her.
We also get to see somebody before they were famous.
Before they were famous.
Who was the actress who played Trini, the hamburger girl?
I begged him to stop, but he didn't.
Any idea?
That I don't know. I
No.
don't.
I missed that one.
That's Monica Raymond. She plays Gabriella Dawson on Chicago Fire.
You said before they were famous. Not before they were on a C show in a C part. Come on.
Well, it's also the Dick Wolf universe,
It's
but
true.
But again, like I said, I wanted to play all my jingles. So you also pointed out our Hey, It's That Guy.
Hey, it's that guy.
So Michelle, I know that you know this, but I'm going to turn it on Rebecca. Can you name the actor who played the restaurant manager?
No, I can't.
That's Scott Adsid.
I told her to get her thieving little butt into my office. Pronto.
And Michelle, what's his famous role?
He played Pete on 30 Rock.
Yeah, Pete Hornberger, one of the writers in that writing room.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not the one with the hat.
Right.
The one with the bald head. And can anyone name who our protest leader was?
Oh, yes, I can. That was Mo Rocca.
Yes.
Maurice Albert Rocca himself.
Oh.
We are here to celebrate the unexpected.
From CBS 60 Minutes, as well as Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff. So Mo Rocca graduated from Harvard. He got his start in the, and I'm not making this up, the Southeast Asian tour of Greece. I was waiting for you to take that sip.
Playing
to tell
who?
You I don't know. Not
Was
Danny.
he Kaniki? Oh, gosh.
Did you hear him in his voice? A hickey from Kaniki.
It's like a Hallmark card.
Exactly. Yeah, so he got his big break on The Daily Show, and now he is the host of the National Geographic Bee and creator of the cooking show My Grandmother's Ravioli.
Huh, okay.
So I think this was I want to say playing against type, but that was a really unusual part for him.
But he's also a correspondent on 60 Minutes, is he not? Which is super weird.
I didn't even know he did that. I just
or
remember
CBS This Morning, like
CBS
one of those
Sunday
like
morning,
CBS news shows.
No, but he's on CBS News. He has Mobituaries is the name of his feature. He represents himself at trial, and I actually think that Merritt Rook argues a good case that he didn't have anything to do with it. I mean, he obviously did, but I think he made a good argument that you don't have enough on me.
We have records proving a call was made to the Happy Burger at that time from a phone card you purchased.
Which I told you I give out to the homeless. And isn't it a known fact that the homeless hang out at the library? And given the mental stability of many of the homeless, couldn't it have been one of them that made this call?
I mean, what do they have? Him just imitating people on the phone, right? I mean...
Well, like he said, they had the phone cards, which he says he gave away to homeless people who also hang out at the library.
I did
and
enjoy...
a photograph of him
yes.
at the library or near the library at the time the phone call was made.
I gotta say, I really did enjoy somebody calling bullshit on the bullshit forensics on this show. This was like a moment for me where I was like, yes. Because one of the things they always do in these SVU shows is they always just like rush the evidentiary stuff, and they love putting it up on PowerPoints, and they love like being like, here's the computer enhanced photo, which by the way, as viewers, we're like, oh, that's definitely Robin Williams. But if you're not definitely Robin Williams, just a regular guy, it's actually kind of a decent argument that is, you know, he's like, the computer was making a guess, and the guy's like, an educated guess, and he's like, it's still a guess.
Yeah.
And then he quotes Wendell Berry randomly. Anyway, I actually think he did a pretty good job defending himself, as defending oneself goes.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought the whole trial scenes with him, he did a really good job in terms of his acting, in my opinion.
He has, you know, usually you have the great monologue in any Law and Order is the summation at trial. Because, you know, certainly, you know, Jack McCoy always had these very classic over-the-top ones. He had a really good, closing argument to the jury.
Now, I don't blame Detectives Benson and Stabler for arresting me or Ms. Novak for putting me on trial. They're just following orders, like a sheep following a shepherd. But we're all in danger of being sheep, blindly following the herd, never questioning authority.
Is there something else we can talk about, though, that I'm wondering if Michelle might be interested in discussing with me without you?
Oh, does this have to do with somebody's hair?
It has to do with just Casey. And I know that Michelle doesn't have a lot of reference points because she doesn't watch any SVU except for this episode. But you do watch teen dramas and like poorly produced stuff that comes out on the CW and networks like that, right?
Yes.
So what year did this episode come out, Kevin?
2008.
Can we talk about Casey's, the lawyer? She's a prosecutor in this.
Yeah.
Very particular, like 1990s Beverly Hills 90210 era hair and eyebrows and makeup in this episode. And all of the ridiculous face acting cutaways we got of her in this show. Did you notice that, Michelle?
I absolutely noticed that. And I also thought and maybe this is how she dresses, her suit was so frumpy. Like, can we just I kept focusing on it, and
Did you think she was pregnant? Because that was my theory.
I did, but I didn't want to say that.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to assume pregnancy.
Did you look that up, Kevin? Was Diane Neal in fact pregnant during the filming of this episode?
No, I think she was planning her failed congressional bid.
But you know what? You know why I didn't want to assume pregnancy, but I also, in many television shows, as you see, whenever a woman is pregnant and she's not supposed to be, they'll just hide it. With a bag or a table. A folder. Yeah.
A close-up.
Or a lot of weird face shots of facial reactions and eyebrows.
Yeah. No, they did have some long shots of her in the courtroom where you could see how baggy it was, but she did not look pregnant there. And I don't think if she were, that they would have shot her like that.
I don't want to be sexist, but she
looked
weird
ahead.
in this episode. Like, Diane Neal is a beautiful woman who always just looks like a prosecutor and like delivers her stuff just fine in all these episodes. She looked freaking weird in this episode.
And did you notice I guess it was like the second part of the trial, her chest was so red.
What happened?
From the neck
she was
down. No, but it was like she had a reaction. I kept focused. I paused the episode. I was like, what is going on? Is she having an allergic reaction to that suit that she's wearing? Or
that baggy polyester suit?
I'm allergic to acrylic.
It was fun, though, when he wins and he gets a not guilty verdict, then he goes up to her and hugs her.
Great job, Casey. Back off.
It was like, it's been fun.
I did like that. I really enjoyed
Let's do
that.
this again.
I could so relate to that. That's just how I felt after serving on jury duty, as you know. I was so
You thought
excited.
it was fun,
It
yeah.
was so fun. I couldn't wait to do it again.
Yeah.
All right, now let's take a look at the second half of this episode. Enjoying his newfound fame as a white man who didn't go to jail, Merritt Rook urges New Yorkers to not be sheep. They demonstrate this by having a big pillow fight in Bryant Park, and because, that'll stick it to corporate America. But it is a philosophy that only a munch could love.
I don't condone what he did, but I understand where he's coming from. I'm a child of the 60s. We thought that LSD and free love was going to change the world. I spoke to Merritt today. He just wants to wake people up.
With pillow fights.
Well, we helped end the Vietnam War with sit-ins.
And what war exactly is Merritt fighting here? The battle against fast foods?
That's nothing. You should hear his tirade against managed care.
The detectives learned that Rook's wife died in child labor. The obstetrician later died in an accident where his car rammed into a tractor trailer, decapitating him, leaving Mariska Hargitay to say, that sounds familiar.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
No, you did not.
I did. The doctor left a suicide note saying Detective Milgram had been calling him about the botched delivery. Now, thinking that this is enough for an arrest, they find Rook at Grand Central Station, where hundreds of his followers prove they are not sheep by freezing simultaneously when someone blows a whistle. Because that's what that means. So Benson collars Rook, but believing he has a bomb, she disappears in the crowd with him. Elliot tracks them to a recording studio where Rook met his wife. Rook has Olivia tied up in a soundproof studio and threatens to blow the building unless Elliot does his own Milgram experiment. Rook wants him to push a button that will zap her with 240 volts. But under the weight of an Emmy-nominated performance, Elliot still refuses to press the buttons. But it's okay, those screams were just a recording, so you passed the test. As they take him into custody, Rook goes to tie his shoe when he presses a switch in his sock that blows up the building behind them. With his hands cuffed in front of him, Rook runs away, jumps through a hedge, then vanishes. When Benson and Stabler can't find him, they say, "Oh, he's probably dead in the river. Let's go home."
So caring.
Yeah. Okay, so first thing, Elliot comes in and he's asked, "Hey, did you see Morning Joe on MSNBC?" And Elliot's got to be like, "I don't watch those libtards."
He also said, "Colic is a bitch," which was my favorite quote of this entire episode.
I'm a man, and even I don't like a colicky baby.
Gratuitous promotion of Joe Scarborough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start by asking you the obvious question. What's with the sheep? You mean Elliot here? You gotta admit, Elliot's pretty damn cute.
Now, the great detail is that Rook comes on and he has a sheep and he named it Elliot.
Yes. Sounds about right, except that sheep has hair.
Oh, burn! So on a hunch, they reopened the investigation into the car crash of dead Mrs. Rook's doctor, and they didn't even ask the technician to do it, but he made a beautiful 32-bit Frogger animation of the car driving straight down the street and into a truck like it's Frogger, complete with a crash sound effect.
Dr. Slifkin's car approached the intersection at 30 miles an hour. He accelerated to 60 and blew through the stop sign just as the semi entered the intersection.
Was that helpful, really?
It was very visual. It was needed.
So we determined he got into a car accident.
He got into a car accident in which he drove fast and drove into something, which, by the way, is no different than what was actually described in the police report.
That's right.
Seeing a cartoon of it did not add anything.
Oh, seeing it from up above brings so much enlightenment. So it looks like that Merritt Rook invents the mannequin challenge 10 years early.
We're going to just skip by the pillow fight situation? What are you
let's
talking
talk about these two demonstrations.
Jesus,
All right.
Kevin.
First,
You're burying the lead.
where Michelle's sister makes her mark on network television.
Sure does.
What the fuck? Again, this is we're going to show that we're not sheep and have a pillow fight. First of all, where does everybody get these pillows? And it has to be the ones that are filled with feathers, not crumbled bits of foam like you mostly get from China.
Right. And I didn't understand. Like, I understand the protests and question authority and don't be a sheep. But, like, the pillow fight, this is a sleepover. It was really, I did not understand why they had to do that.
I kind of feel like the whole point of that scene was to show us that Munch keeps a tape roller in his desk so he can keep his black suit clean.
Oh, you know he has that.
That whole scene where he was
But where the fuck did
describing...
Munch get a pillow?
Also, wouldn't he be like in a little bit of trouble for joining in the thing they went to go arrest people at? Like even a little bit? But no, he's just explaining why he did it and rolling himself in the squad room.
He just wants people to be woke. He's just all about it. Like he said, he's a child of the 60s and, you know, you should question it a little bit.
Yeah, he's looking like he's 60 too in this.
Yeah.
He's not wearing well around the edges. He looks older than Cragen.
Okay, now you can talk about the mannequin challenge. Everyone looks older than Cragen, Kevin. Cragen has aged backwards this whole series. We've established that many times. Now we can talk about the mannequin challenge.
Okay, yeah, so the second thing is let's go to Grand Central Station. And again, I don't know, this flash mob of the boringest flash mob ever.
Yeah.
Again, I'm like, what does this prove?
Yeah, I didn't really understand. And I mean, I don't know. And the fact that he became a part of the improv act, so he's being a sheep by listening, or that was the point of it. Maybe I missed the point of it.
It's the exact opposite of the scene in Dead Poets Society.
Yeah.
It's like, everybody do your thing.
How
and
does he
freeze.
I mean, Mo Rocca is clearly like his lieutenant, right? Like he's like his.
Yeah, where's Mo Rocca come from anyway?
Yeah, really.
I have a bullhorn and a whistle, so I'll be in charge.
Right.
Can I tell you something that I learned in this part of the episode that was very comforting to me?
Yeah.
Is that sound engineers who work for NASA basically do exactly what sound engineers do in recording studios, which means, by extension, I could work at NASA, like no problem.
Hey, that's great.
Badass.
I told you I was going to use all the sound effects.
Every single one.
Yeah, I'll have to find a way to mention Hudson University.
We are Hudson, where the bad guys go to school.
No one went there. There you go.
Yeah. And Profaci.
Oh, Profaci.
So Robin Williams worked with Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, Steven Spielberg, Robert Altman, Mike Nichols, Francis Ford Coppola, Ivan Reitman, Woody Allen. But it was in the hands of SVU director David Platt that he was able to dig deep and emote the phrase, "Push the button!"
And I held my wife's hand, and I watched her bleed to death. I put my faith in a little god in a white coat, and he killed my wife and son! Push the button!
So that was a pretty intense scene. It was weird because, like, you hear, like, the Robin Williams voice, and then you would also hear the voice.
There's nothing intense about that scene. Nothing. It's ruined by the fact that he turns off the lights in the recording studio. Like, as a viewer, I never for a second believed that Livy was actually getting shocked by that stupid button. Not even for a little second. Her scream sounded like he just said, "Hey, scream, I'm going to record you." They didn't sound live. But second, like, why turn off the lights? Like, why do that?
So he can't see that she's not screaming. That's the experiment, Rebecca. God damn it.
The experiment was they were in a different room with a wall between them.
You're talking about the real
Milgram experiment.
Michelle, how much they explained it in the episode, but how much do you know about the Milgram experiment?
Honestly, not much. I did some research today because I know there's bits that are based off of, every Law & Order episode is based off real events. So I just did a quick search, but I really don't know much.
Yeah, this happened, I believe, in the 50s, and I've seen, the archival film of it. And basically, it would be a guy sitting at a table with some buttons or a switch, and he was told by, a guy in a lab coat that for this experiment, that there was somebody on the other side of the wall, wired up, and I think they had to ask a question, and when they got it wrong, they would...
Yeah, and
they would zap them, and they weren't really being zapped, but it was to see, like, how far would this guy go?
The whole conceit was, how far will people go to hurt other people when they're told this is the confines of the experiment, you have to do it.
Right.
It was the I'm only following orders experiment. It's basically what it was. Yeah.
Which is how you get a girl naked in a burger joint. Because it's the same thing. It's like how, you believe it's an authority figure, how far will you go?
But here's the thing. The Milgram experiment, like they're taking notes and like getting data from that. Does Robin Williams even know that manager actually got that girl naked in the burger joint? He wouldn't even know because he's not on the phone anymore.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
You're saying there's a plot hole?
I'm saying there's a plot hole.
Oh, okay.
More than one, but that is one of them.
It's funny because Elliot won't push the button, but if it was the other way around, Olivia would be like, I'll fucking push that button.
So would I.
That's right. Come in and bitch about your colicky baby and my barren womb. Fuck you. So first he lures Elliot into his secret lair with Olivia wired up in the isolation booth like he's a fucking Bond villain.
Yep.
In the chair, he's got to swing around.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't expect you to get here so quickly, Detective Stabler.
Yeah, just waiting to pet the cat, right? Now, forget the detail that he suddenly blows up the building to make his
getaway. Forget the detail? Forget that?
Yeah,
okay,
forget that Bond villain thing. He runs into the river and the detectives just give up.
There's no sign of him.
Very smart. He blew that building. He had a plan.
He went into that water cuffed. He's dead.
I have so many. Okay. If this was the only episode I saw, the thing I would wonder,
it is the only episode you saw.
Right, correct. Let me retract. I would wonder, because I'm not going forward. I'll probably never watch more. Maybe. We'll see. But I would be like...
How have you avoided it? I mean, that's what I want to know. How have you avoided it? It's on all the time.
There's just so much more content out there, I suppose. But he just goes into the river. We never see the dead body. So I'd be like, oh, he comes back.
Right, you would think that he would come back.
Yeah, but I'm assuming he doesn't.
No, they just never explain.
But there's a whole other part of that whole scene. Elliot and Liv do an awesome running scene here. So Robin Williams takes off and he's running, and you're like, oh, those cops are definitely going to catch him because they look like they're athletes and they're running.
They're running, and he's kind of like doing this weird thing with his hips, with his hands in front of him.
Chasing him through the park. They go to the playground. Then he goes into what is clearly a path between two bushes. They arrive at that same path between two bushes, and they're like, wait, how do we get between these bushes? It's like, go through the same
they stopped at the bushes.
path that he went through.
Did.
You just saw him go through that path.
You think there are thorns in those bushes? Should we maybe be careful? One after another?
But I also didn't understand how they didn't hear a splash.
Yeah. Right, they jumped through the bushes, and then it teased at the river, and they're like, we don't know where he went. It's like, I don't know, there's two of you. One go left, one go right.
Right.
It's not
or
like,
look down to see if there's a boat. I didn't even look down.
I don't know.
And the whole assertion is, if he went in there, he's dead. Then they just walk away. Like, even if that's true, don't you stand there and call people and get them to come check?
But he's obviously a Bond villain. So did he escape in his hovercraft or?
Right. And my question for you guys is, was Merritt planning on killing himself with the bomb this whole time if he didn't get caught, or did he really want to suffer and drown if he went into the body of water, the East River?
This is the plot hole because at the time he's at Grand Central Station, he's been acquitted of all charges. He's got every reason to believe that he's never going to be arrested.
Right.
But in that same moment, he also has on standby, he has an abandoned recording studio that is already wired with a remote device that he keeps in his sock.
Yes.
Just in case he has to make a getaway.
Yes. And let's just be real. The other charges they were going to bring, that he made a phone call that made somebody commit suicide, he's not going to get convicted of that either.
No.
That's not even a thing. That was a thing in Massachusetts with those two teenagers. But she literally told that other guy 100 times to commit suicide. He was just making a phone call.
Well, he already knows how to work a jury.
He does.
Casey's no match for him.
No, she isn't with those eyebrows and that baggy suit.
Yeah.
And the rash.
Yeah, remember we spent...
She ate strawberries before they taped. It's not her fault.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Remember, they will spend all day making someone create a cartoon recreation of a car accident from 5 years ago based on a hunch. But you can't call for backup when you find a felon who was just here a minute ago.
I mean, did they go back to the office and they were just, he's in the river. That's it.
Yeah, and I need a new set of handcuffs.
Sheep can't swim, so we shouldn't worry about it.
Right.
I think it'd be great is like back on Morning Joe. That producer is like, hey, you remember the guy who came on with the sheep
Who's
a week
taking care
ago?
of the sheep, by the way? Where is he keeping the sheep?
Where's
and who's taking
Elliot?
care of it?
Yeah.
We see he lives in an apartment. Where is he keeping this damn sheep?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not at the record studio. It just blew up. But the producer would be like, hey, Joe, remember that guy? Well, he just escaped from the police handcuffed and disappeared into the river. And they'd be like, yeah, I don't think we'll cover that. All right, let's take a look at the real-life story that inspired this episode. It's time for Ripped from the Headlines.
Can't wait.
You think you know who did it. You think you know who did it. But you don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. Ripped from the headlines.
This episode was inspired by a strip search scam at a Kentucky McDonald's in 2004.
Shut up.
A man who said he was a police officer called the restaurant and told assistant manager Donna Summers one of her employees was wanted for theft. After describing a woman who looked like cashier Louise Ogborn, the manager brought her into the back office. The caller ordered Summers to strip search the employee. After an hour of keeping the naked woman in the office, Summers told the caller she needed to work the counter. The caller told her to have someone she trusted watch Ogborn, so she called her fiancé, Walter Nix. Over the next 2 hours, upon the direction of the caller, Nix forced Ogborn to dance naked, do jumping jacks, and perform oral sex on him.
What?
Jeez.
Summers eventually became suspicious and confronted the caller, who hung up. Police linked the hoax to 70 others across the US, but none were this serious. They traced the phone card used to David Stewart of Massachusetts. In 2006, a Kentucky jury found him not guilty of charges connected to the crime, but police say that after Stewart's arrest, the hoax phone call stopped.
So a guy from the Eurythmics convinced Donna Summer to make somebody get naked.
I guess if you just read the report, you might think that.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. So the caller was able to stretch it out by telling Donna Summer
I'm sorry, it's never not going to be funny.
that the rest of the police in town were busy, but on their way. So can you do this investigative work for us and help us along?
It's crazy.
So knowing what we've talked about the willingness to please authority, can you? Why are you laughing? You cannot believe this, huh?
I just can't imagine. Like, having worked a number of retail type jobs growing up and even as an adult, throughout the years, having those kinds of jobs. If you run a McDonald's, you've got other shit to do besides conduct a private dick investigation on the behest of a telephone stranger. Doesn't she have to put the fries in the basket?
Well, here's the thing. Yes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pressure because the naked girl was not at the counter, right? And the orders were backing up and the manager was there and she's telling the police officer, and I say that with air quotes, I've got to go. So that's why he's like, okay, well, you need to get somebody else to watch her. And that's when she called her fiance. Anyway, while police in Kentucky had traced that phone call to Florida, they learned that there was a detective in Massachusetts already working on this case. And like the TV show, they were able to identify Stewart by video at several Walmarts buying the cards. They didn't see his face, but they got the uniform that he was wearing and eventually tracked it down to him. Why would you think that a giant department store wouldn't have video cameras, or that you would just be able to slip out, wearing your work uniform, that no one would know it was you?
Well, why would you think that someone would even find you? Because here's the thing. If I wanted to commit this crime, 100% exactly what I would do would be go to Walmart to buy prepaid phone cards. I would never think that they'd be able to trace that back to me then calling a McDonald's in Kentucky and talking to Donna Summer. That is an obscure scheme. Am I wrong, Michelle?
No, not at all. Yeah.
I mean, if I wanted to buy an axe to kill somebody, I wouldn't go into Walmart and buy it wearing my work uniform with my name on it.
Well, you have to buy it somewhere, Rebecca.
But to buy phone cards that were going to be used in this thing that I couldn't imagine would be turned into some kind of national investigation, I mean, I got to say, what was his name? Dave Stewart, the guy from the Eurythmics?
Yeah, because don't say it's Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics.
I know it's not.
I don't want to get sued.
Well, Donna Summer.
Yeah. Now, what do you think Donna Summer, I think it's actually Donna, think it's Donna Summers.
It's still funny.
All right. What do you think that Summers did when she saw the videotape of her fiancé making a girl go down on him? Yeah, she broke off the engagement, obviously. It's kind of what I was thinking. It was kind of obvious.
Is it weird that I'm like picturing it?
Yeah, me too.
Oh.
Me too.
Like, ooh. What would, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly picturing her reaction.
Yeah.
So
Detective Milgram made me do it.
Yeah. Walter Nix received a 5-year prison sentence. Is that an appropriate amount given the mitigating factors in this case?
What are the mitigating factors in this case?
Well, that he was directed to do, he didn't set out to sexually assault the girl. He was directed to do it.
So Walter Nix was the fiancé.
Walter Nix was the fiancé.
He got 5 years.
He got 5 years
for being told what to do and then doing it. Did he have? Okay, was he stupid? I mean, did anyone test his IQ before giving him this sentence? Because here's the thing. Any reasonable person who isn't stupid would show up and be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Or would have something else to do during a weekday where they wouldn't be able to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he did it, and then he reportedly, immediately afterwards went to a friend and said, I think I just did something really horrible.
5 years seems a lot. I mean, I feel horrible for the girl. I mean, that's not great. But they should sort of maybe team up together and blame the real perpetrator. Although, I don't know. I mean, he must be really stupid, right? That's all you come back to.
Well, are these people stupid or are they
manipulated?
Isn't this the experiment?
Right.
I mean, there's probably a little both. I don't know. I mean,
or some people are just not thinking and they're just. I don't know, something comes over. I don't know. I'm always just so self-aware and so just thinking of everything. So I feel like I'm I don't know. I just feel like I wouldn't be manipulated. But then again, I'm not in that position. But I don't think so. I want to safely say, and I laugh
that if someone called you and said,
hang up.
I'd probably hang up. I don't know. I'd be like, I want to see how this plays out.
Here's the thing, Kevin.
Curiosity.
Our sense of sort of personal social justice is so much more I think elevated now than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, let's be real. Sometimes you and I get a podcast ad and we're like, yeah, we're not comfortable reading that copy. We don't want to make claims about a vitamin. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where we are today.
Right.
This guy is he doesn't, I mean, look at the Milgram experiment. Someone in a lab coat in the 1950s or 60s was like, ooh, he's wearing a lab coat and carrying a clipboard. He must be a person of authority, right?
Yeah.
I think we have more self-awareness now. I don't know where this dude fell on that. Nix fell on that. But it sounds like he maybe wasn't 100% equipped to say, perhaps to push back on authority. Maybe he had, experiences of his own that should have played into this.
Well, I mean, there was a feature film called Compliance that dealt with this particular case. And, there are arguments that can be made that, he was duped into doing this thing, but he did also, the girl was also victimized.
Right.
She didn't want to be held. She didn't want to be, have to perform oral sex. So there probably should be some kind of reckoning for that.
100% yes.
So Ogborn sued McDonald's and originally won $6 million. That was
Wait,
later.
this is the victim?
This is the victim.
Okay.
McDonald's attorneys were sanctioned for withholding evidence in that case.
Really?
Even Donna Summers sued McDonald's and was awarded $1 million.
Good for her.
Their argument was that McDonald's should have offered training that people might call pretending to be police and order them to sexually assault people.
No, that was not their argument.
That was the argument, that the McDonald's didn't train them.
Oh, because McDonald's may have known because it happened at other McDonald's.
Could have been.
That makes sense.
McDonald's is responsible for a lot of bad shit.
Yeah.
How much liability do they have in this?
If McDonald's knew that this had happened at other McDonald's, they 100% should have made other employees at other franchises aware and provided some, if not training, at least I don't know, an email saying heads
up.
Hey, not for nothing, but on the off chance someone calls and says, find the hottest girl there and get her to take off all her clothes. Probably not a cop.
When you say the withholding evidence, and I don't want to make an assumption, but I bet that's what it was.
That's probably what it was. Michelle, Rebecca makes a good argument. I mean, a Merritt Rook level argument there. Would you? Do you go along with her?
I do, yeah.
Here's the whole thing. When you go to McDonald's, what does it say in your coffee cup right now?
Don't spill.
Yes, contents might be hot. We all know why that happened. Don't you think that they just could have sent an email to their franchises?
I think now if you go back to the manager's office at every McDonald's, there's probably a little posting saying, don't fall for a prank call.
Probably. Please wash your hands before going back to work and don't fall for a prank call.
Yeah.
And don't call your boyfriend to get oral from one of your employees.
It's a very long notice.
It's like one of those OSHA posters.
Yeah, it's on legal paper, not on 8.5 by
It's been
11.
8.5 days since someone erroneously gave a blowjob in this room.
Well, that is going to do it for us. We want to thank our guest, Michelle Rubenstein. Michelle, where can our listeners follow you online?
You can follow us at It Takes 3 Network, ittakes3network.com. And if you're interested in the OC, Let's Talk OC on all social media and Tree Hill Talk on all social media.
And Rebecca Lavoie, how can our listeners follow you?
You can follow me at Reb Lavoie on both Twitter and Instagram.
And you can track me on Twitter at Kevin P. Flynn. You can also tweet to us at Law & Order Pod or follow us on Instagram at These Are Their Stories Podcast. Our newsreader was Cy Frater. Our theme music was composed and performed by Uncanny Valleys. All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act, fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. If you want to know what episodes we're talking about in our upcoming shows, go to lawandorderpodcast.com. Sign up for our newsletter for a chance to be our next Law & Order Marathon winner. These Other Stories was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio and is a production of Partners in Crime Media.